Well, hello and welcome. I'm Misheard with Misheard Song Lyrics Podcast. We're in Season 7, Episode 348. The Misheard lyric is, I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant. And then the correct lyrics is, I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant. Restaurant, it works. You can wear it. Yeah, I also in a fancy restaurant. So if you haven't figured out already, the Misheard Song lyric this week is Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You. Okay, we had mentioned at our last Misheard episode 347 that with Miley Cyrus, she shared that her music video for Wrecking Ball was inspired by Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You. So perfect to do this song as our next Misheard song lyric. So Nothing Compares to You. It's a 1990 song by Irish singer-songwriter Sinead O'Connor from her second studio album called I Do Not Want What I've Gotten. Very prophetic title for her 1990 album. It was written by none other than American musician Prince, put a pin on that, and co-produced by Sinead O'Connor and Nellie Hooper. Nothing Compares to You is a pop song with lyrics expressing an abandoned lover's feelings of longing. Very true. So, pre-production for the song was done at Hooper's house. Hooper enlisted Gota Yashiki, with whom he'd previously worked on Soul to Soul's debut studio album, to do arranging and programming of instrument and drum tracks for the song. Yashiki utilized, for those of you nerds out there, an Atari ST computer running C-Lab notator sequencing software and an Akai S100 or 1100 sampler. And after the recording sessions, they moved to Britannia Row Studio, and they actually used live drum parts that were overdubbed and the cello part provided by the Akai sampler that was finalized. However, this is what's amazing, knowing how hard that is. O'Connor's vocals was recorded in one single take. That's how awesome she is. Then double-tracked with another subsequent take using another fancy instrument called an AKG C413BULS large diaphragm condenser microphone. Per the singer's demands, absolutely no compression was used on her vocals. That's why it's so pure and beautiful. So speaking of which, let's talk about Sinead O'Connor. So she was born Sinead Marie Bernadette O'Connor back on December 8th, 1966. She's also known as Shuhada Sadaquat, and we'll explain why the name changed later. She was an Irish singer, musician, and activist, and I use the word was because sadly she passed away almost 3 years ago now on July 26, 2023. And during her musical career, she had several hit records and artist collaborations, and she definitely drew a lot of attention for her issues such as child abuse, human rights, racism, and women's rights. She's also been very known to be outspoken public image, openly discussing her spiritual journey, activism, socio-political viewpoints, and struggles with mental health. And O'Connor's debut studio album, The Lion and the Cobra, was released in 1987 and achieved international chart success. It's her 1990 album, I Do Not Want What I Have Gotten, was the biggest commercial success, selling over 7 million copies worldwide, and that was at a time where people had to actually go to the record store and purchase her record or single. Its lead single, The Nothing Compares to You, became a signature song and was named the top world single of the year at the Billboard Music Awards. It also caused some uproar. So let me just go back in time. So Saturday Night Live, picture this, October 3rd, 1992, and I was there with friends watching it in my apartment in San Diego, California, in the United States. I was a mere 20, not expecting what was going to happen. O'Connor appeared on the television show SNL and staged a protest against the Roman Catholic Church. After she performed a beautiful a cappella rendition of Bob Marley's 1976 song War with new lyrics related to child abuse, she tore up the photograph of Pope John Paul II taken from her mother's bedroom while 8 years earlier and said, "Fight the real enemy," and threw the pieces to the floor. I remember we were watching like, what the hell are we? Is this a skit? Is this a gag? And I got to check and see if I can still even find it, because I don't even know if you can find that video, because once it happened, I couldn't find it anywhere. So at least with the age of interwebs, maybe I can do more searching. But if you can find it, because it was shocking to us back in October 3rd, 1982. A month later, O'Connor said she felt the Catholic Church bore some responsibility for the physical, sexual, and emotional abuse she had suffered as a child. Dang. In describing her actions, she said the church had destroyed entire races of people and that Catholic priests have been abusing children for years, sadly true. Her protest took place 9 years before John Paul II publicly acknowledged child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. The protest triggered hundreds of complaints from viewers. It attracted criticism from institutions, including the Anti-Defamation League and the National Ethnic Coalition of Organizers, and celebrities, including Catholic Italian Americans like Joe Pesci, Frank Sinatra, and Madonna, who mocked the performance on Saturday Night Live later that season. Wonder how they feel about it now. 2 weeks after her SNL appearance, O'Connor was booed at the 30th anniversary tribute concert for Bob Dylan at Madison Square Garden in New York City before Chris Christopherson, God bless his heart, came on stage, put his arm around her, and offered words of encouragement. And in her 2021 memoir called Rememberings, O'Connor wrote that she did not regret the protests, and it was more important for her to be a protest singer than a successful pop star. That as a woman with a high resolve. Time later named O'Connor the most influential woman of 1992 for her protests, as they should, because, man, I don't know, that takes a lot, right? I remember this clearly because, again, I was in San Diego and we were watching this. Now, personally, she has several kids. So O'Connor's first son, Jake, was born on June 16th, 1987. So this June, he'll be what? 39? Wow. And his father was the music producer John Reynolds, who co-produced several of O'Connor's albums, including Universal Mother. O'Connor then married Reynolds at Westminster Register Office in March of 1989. She had an abortion the same year and later wrote the song My Special Child about the experience. The couple announced their plan to divorce in November of 1991 after being separated for some time. Then in September 1995, O'Connor announced that she was pregnant by her friend, the Irish columnist John Waters, not the director, so don't get him confused. Their daughter, Brigadine Roisin Waters, generally known as Roisin, I think that's how you say it, sorry, Irish, was born on March 6, 1996, so will be 30 this year. Soon after the birth, the pair began a long custody battle that ended in 1999 with O'Connor agreeing to let Roisin live with Waters in Dublin. Wow, so daughter stayed with dad. Fast forward to August 2001, O'Connor married the British journalist Nick Summerlin in Wales. Their marriage ended after 11 months, and then in July 2002, when they mutually agreed to part. In February of 2003, the marriage was reportedly over, and Summerlin had moved back home to the UK. O'Connor gave birth to their third child, son Shane, on March 10, 2004. His father was the Irish musician Donal Lunny. And then her fourth child, son Yeshua, was born on December 19, 2006, so will be 20 this December. Wow. Fathered by Frank Bonadio. The pair remained on good terms after separating in early 2007. O'Connor was married a third time on July 22, 2010, to her longtime friend and collaborator Steve Cooney, but then they separated March of 2011. She was married a fourth time on December 9th, 2011, to the Irish therapist Barry Harridge. They married in Las Vegas, and the marriage ended after they had lived together for 7 days only. On January 3rd, 2012, O'Connor said that she and Harridge had reunited, and in February 2014, she said they had not divorced and were planning to renew their wedding vows, but 2 weeks later decided not to do so. Then O'Connor's first grandson was born on July 18, 2015, so this July he'll be 11, to her son Jake and his girlfriend. O'Connor's 17-year-old son Shane sadly was found dead from suicide in January 2022. O'Connor, who had lost custody of Shane in 2013, said he had recently been on a suicide watch at Tallaght Hospital, and she criticized the health service executive for their handling of her son's case. A week after her son's death, O'Connor admitted herself to hospital to receive help for her own mental health struggles. God bless her. Other relationships, O'Connor stated that she had a relationship with her manager, Fachna O'Shea, immediately after her marriage to John Reynolds and during the tour of The Lion and the Cobra. They say here the extra-conjugal relationship ended. That's an interesting way of using those words. In 1989, when O'Connor discovered that Chalet was secretly having an affair with another woman. This experience is reflected in O'Connor's song, The Last Day of Our Acquaintance. And then, out of the blue, didn't expect to see this name. Anthony Kiedis of Red Hot Chili Peppers claimed he had a relationship with O'Connor in 1990 and wrote the song I Could Have Lied about the experience. O'Connor denied this, saying, quote unquote, I never had a relationship with him, ever. I hung out with him a few times, and the row we had was because he suggested we might become involved. I don't give a shit about the song he wrote. I love it. The big did you know, though, was between 1992 and 1993, O'Connor had an affair with British singer, supposedly, Peter Gabriel, who she was accompanying him on a secret world tour. In May of 1993, and at the 1993 MTV Video Music Awards in September. In October of 1993, O'Connor said she had attempted suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills as a reaction to Peter Gabriel's refusal to make their relationship permanent. This experience inspired her to write, "Thank you for hearing me." Wow. And then this is another crazy story. So I said put a pin on it with Prince. In 2014, O'Connor said she didn't get on at all with Prince, the writer of Nothing Compares to You. According to O'Connor, Prince demanded she visit him at his home and then chastised her for swearing in interviews. So she told him to F off, at which point Prince became violent and she fled. In her memoir that I mentioned earlier, that was released in 2021, Rememberings, and then became a bestseller, so it's probably in there. In her memoir, O'Connor gave some details of Prince's behavior, which ranged from having his butler serve up soup despite her repeatedly refusing it, to suggesting a pillow fight and then hitting her with a hard object placed in a pillowcase and stalking her with his car after she left the mansion. Oh my God, that is crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay, then, remember I talked about the name change? She converted to Islam in 2018. She adopted the name Shahuda Sadaquat while continuing to perform and record under her birth name. Like I said, sadly, O'Connor died on July 26, 2023 in her flat in Herne Hill, South London at the age of 56. The death certificate stated her cause of death as exacerbation, oh my gosh, I can't even spell, as exacerbation of chronic obstruction pulmonary disease and bronchial asthma together with low-grade lower respiratory tract infection. And the coroner said that she died of natural causes. They had a private funeral held on August 8, 2023 in Bray County, Wicklow. It was attended by the President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, and O'Connor's family invited the public to pay their respects at the seafront where the funeral cortege passed. Thousands attended, bearing signs and tributes. Her burial was privately held at Dean's Grange Cemetery. What was interesting is she left a sum roughly about 1.7 million pounds, I guess, 2 million, to her children, Jake Reynolds, Brigidine Roseanne Waters, and Yeshua Bonadio. And after selling and settling debts, funeral expense, legal fees, records, everything from Irish probate, it reduced it down to about 1.6 million, but still she left money for her children. And in 2024, O'Connor was posthumously nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Wow. Okay, so let's go back to the song. Nothing Compares to You was written, like I said, by American musician Prince, who recorded a demo in 1984. Apparently in 1985, Prince's funk band, The Family, released their sole studio album, The Family, including Nothing Compares to You. It was not released as a single and received little recognition, and Prince's demo was released in 2018. The interesting thing is, years later, Prince did do the song with Rosie Gaines, which I always do at karaoke, and people love it because I do both parts, and it's hard to do, but it's worth it, and it's so beautiful too. So I don't know, it's just interesting that this one came before and it did quite well, but I tell you, the Prince one with Rosie Gaines, it kicks. All right, let's go to the music video. So as of July 10th, 2017, when it was officially uploaded in YouTube, we have about 558, almost 559 million views. It was directed by John Mayberry. The music video consists mostly of a close-up of O'Connor's very beautiful face as she goes through stages of sadness and anger while singing the songs. The rest consists of her walking through the Parc de Saint-Cloud in Paris. Towards the end of the video, 2 tears roll down her face, one in each cheek. O'Connor had said that her tears were real. She did not intend to cry, but then thought, I should let this happen. She explained the tears were triggered by thoughts of her mother who died in a car accident in 1985. Oh my gosh. She also said she learned to channel her emotions with the bel canto sing style, which she compared to extreme acting methods. In the middle and at the very end of the video, there's a shot of O'Connor's photo session for the I Do Not Want What I Have Gotten album cover. How did the video do? It did well. It's world premiere on MTV's late night alternative rock program, 120 Minutes, on January 28th, 1990. It won 3 what they call Moon Men at the 1990 MTV Video Music Awards of the year. It won Video of the Year. O'Connor was the first female artist to be awarded, so that's huge. It won Best Female Video and Best Postmodern Video. It was nominated for Breakthrough Video, Viewer's Choice, and International Viewer's Choice during the ceremony, but won 3 still. And of course, O'Connor's version was a worldwide hit, topping charts in O'Connor's native Ireland, Australia, Austria, Canada, UK, United States, of course. It's in the US, it spent 4 weeks at the top Billboard Hot 100. In addition, it was #1 in the Billboard Alternative Song charts and reached number 2 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart, held off the top position by Rod Stewart's This Old Heart of Mine for 3 weeks. Rod Stewart still has it. In terms of its chart performance on the Hot 100, it ranked number 3 for 1990, and in April 1990, my birthday at that time, it was certified platinum by the RIAA, aka Recording Industry Association of America. On the second of its 4 weeks at number 1, the record parent album I Do Not Want What I Haven't Gotten started a 6-week run at number 1 on the Billboard 200. In 2019, the single ranked 97 in a Hot 100 60th anniversary of Top 600, covering the period from 1958 to 2018. Interesting enough, in the UK, the single ranked number 2 for the year behind a re-release of the Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody. That's another story in itself. And then in July 2023, days after O'Connor's death, Nothing Compares to You reappeared on the UK Top 100 at number 45 and charted number 1 on the UK Singles Download chart. I mentioned at my previous episode that when I did the Miley Cyrus misheard song lyric, that they had a feud back and forth. And from what I can see, after her death, Miley felt very bad, especially throwing at the mental health, and, feels bad that was mentioned against each other. So we learned a lot. We learned of how her dealings with Prince is a little iffy, was a Prince song, did quite well, her tumultuous life, and she really was out there and believed in what she believed and didn't care if she was a pop star, which is amazing and scary as a woman. So we tip your hat, and we want to remember you, Miss Sinead O'Connor. If you have any great suggestions like this misheard song lyric, it's not a red sarong, it's eating at a fancy restaurant, send it to our Instagram page, our Facebook page, or just send me a personal email at misheard, that's MISSHEARD songs @gmail.com. Till then, keep singing those songs wrong. Bye.